Hi, and welcome to another week of Tips for AI Trailblazers. I'm Kathleen Purley, your host and founder of Demystify. This week, it's all about AI agents. The buzz has been a boundful in the world of AI around AI agents. And while this is nothing new, there have been some huge announcements, both from Microsoft Copilot announcing their AI Agent Studio that'll be released shortly, as well as Anthropic announcing their Claude's computer use, which is currently only accessible through the API. But it is a huge advancement in terms of how we think about AI and how we're applying it to our world. So I'm going to show you how to set up the infrastructure to use this beta computer use on Anthropic's Claude, and how to get started. So we'll go ahead and dig in. Now, I will say this is in beta. I will say this is probably not something I'm going to use a ton right now because of the functionality is just not quite there. But it's really impressive in terms of the shifts that we're going to see. This is a completely new way of thinking about how these AI agents can interact, and work across different platforms, use our computer and our mouse. And as this technology continues to advance, this is something we're going to start to see more often, right? Just like we saw with chain of reasoning and inference with the O1 preview model in terms of what that means as a jumping off point from the O1 preview model from ChatGPT. This is very similar in terms of functionality and technology that we're going to see continue, and computer use be a huge part of any frontier model's vision and roadmap in the future. So we'll go ahead and get started. So this was released within the last 48 hours. It is in beta. You do have to access it through the API. And one of the first things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to install a Docker if you don't have one in place already. You'll just go to docker.com and you'll download the right software for your device. If you're not sure which one, if you're on the Apple Silicon or an Intel chip, you can easily go to your Apple icon and view about this Mac. So this will tell us, see, the chip is an Apple, so you would download Apple. Let me make sure our Docker is running. Let's see, it looks like it is. Okay, so it looks like Docker is running in the background, which is great. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let me check that one more time because I feel like I don't see it in the pop-up, but it's probably behind one of these windows. Okay, so we're going to get started and I'm going to show you kind of how to integrate this and how you work through this. So one of the first things that you're going to need to do is go to console.anthropic.ai. You don't need to go to the billing side. You will go to the main dashboard and you will see this thing called Get API Keys. So you'll simply click on this and create a key. So we're going to call this computer use 4. And I'm going to put this in default. This will generate your API key. Now, note you'll want to copy and paste this into a notepad or a text pad because once you close this window, you will not be able to see it again. Another note, in case you are sharing this with others or showing people how you work on these things, I will actually be deleting this API key after recording this video because you don't want people using your tokens from that perspective. So be mindful that you want to keep your API keys secret. It's very important from that standpoint. The next thing you're going to want to do is open up a terminal and make sure your Docker is running. So if you're on a Mac, you can just go here, type in terminal, and we will get a terminal up. I'm actually going to restart this because it has some of my old work that I was doing in here. So we're going to quit it and then I'm going to reopen it. Whoops. So let's reopen terminal. It still has all that in there. Okay, well, we're just going to keep it going. So what we're going to do is you're actually going to go to the GitHub repository and download or copy and paste the code. So when you get to the GitHub repository, and I'll keep this link in the YouTube description, you'll just scroll down and actually copy and paste whatever kind of configuration you're going to use. So you can do this directly through the Anthropic API key. You can use Bedrock or you can use Vertex. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to show you how to use the Anthropic API. So we're just going to copy and paste this over. And let me And you'll see here, you'll have to replace the API key. I typically find that it's easier to go ahead and put this all into a kind of like a TXT file, replace it, and then copy and paste it over. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now on my other screen. We'll go back to our terminal, and you'll see what I did is I just uploaded the API key here, and we'll press enter. And you'll start to see that it's starting to run. If you haven't done this before, you haven't downloaded and installed the packages, it may take a little bit to kind of run, and you'll kind of see some files come through. So let's give it a few seconds. It should come in soon. And then we're getting in a new port, and then we get this new URL that we can access a virtual machine in. So obviously, if we're giving control over to our computer, to an AI agent, we're going to want to keep this in a very secure environment, which is why we're utilizing Docker. So let's open up this URL in our browser. And from here, it's really like you would any other type of prompting tool. As I mentioned before, there are some limitations. So right now we have a text editor, Excel, Firefox, and a calculator. So there's not a ton of functionality today. But as I mentioned, this is just showing kind of the groundwork and where we're going from an AI industry, and what we're going to start seeing more from the frontier models. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a prompt like you would anything else, but you're going to provide like step-by-step instructions. So this is simple. The clarity of the prompt is key, and just keeping it really simple. So I'm going to go ahead and add a simple prompt. I have a friend who I'm trying to convince to come visit me in Houston, so that we can go to the Antique Festival in Round Top. So I'm going to have it search the web, open Firefox, search Google to figure out when the dates are, and draft an email. The other thing that Anthropic recommends on their kind of documents for developers is this specific instructions that they've added. So if you'll see here, it says after each step, to kind of add some additional screenshots to ensure that we've achieved the right outcome. So I'm going to copy and paste that into my existing prompts so that we have that as well. So let's add that in, and let's see the agent go to work. So you'll start to see it move my mouse and computer. So the first thing it'll do is it'll actually identify the Firefox icon. It'll open up a web browser. It'll go to Google. And what's really interesting about this is it actually is using pixels. So one of the reasons when they were developing this is they actually, to get the performance that they were looking for, they actually had to train the AIs to understand pixel utilization and how to identify. So because with mouse movements, you have to be so precise in terms of where you click. So it has navigated to Google. It asked that search. It found the dates, which is great. It's continuing to run, and then it is going to draft that email for me. So this is a really awesome way to use this technology. As I mentioned before, this is probably not something I'm going to use a ton, but it just goes to show, as you think through the different AI pilots you're going to be running, of how you can start integrating and using new functionality and think about the future of where these tools will be. I use a lot of integration with Zapier or Make to connect my AI agents to multiple different applications. But this really creates a whole new framework because the AI agents can navigate on your behalf and kind of move around your desktop like a human would. So this is going to be a huge thing that we're going to start to see come forward and be more prevalent in 2026. And I mean, in 2025 and into 2026. So wanted to share this. This is one of the big topics that are happening behind the scenes in the like kind of tech nerdy world. But next week, please be sure to join us because I'm going to be bringing it out of the world of nerdiness into real practical applications and show you how to build a custom GPT to deliver social media editorial calendars that work with both Facebook, Twitter, focuses on character count, and as well as develops the perfect prompt for you to utilize for AI image generation. So look forward to seeing you next week.